So in our previous class, we have seen array methods. So today we'll see some more advanced methods which we can use in arrays. So interview perspective, which are important, but in automation point of view, so we won't use those methods. But programming point of view or interview point of view, these methods are very important. Okay. So just do one round of practice and you can familiar with those methods. So let's go and create a new folder for today. So day 11. So I'm just creating a new file, arrays, or I can say advanced array methods.ts. Okay. So there are mainly six methods are there, which are very important. And there are so many n number of functions are there. So we are not going to discuss each and everything because it becomes a huge list. So later I will provide all the list of methods and you can explore them. Mainly there are six methods are there. Array methods for each, map, filter, reduce, sum, every. So these are the six methods which are most important in TypeScript, even JavaScript. Same methods are there in JavaScript also. So how it will work in same times TypeScript in the similar way, even in JavaScript also, it will work exactly the similar way. So first let us start with for each. So in other programming language like Java, Python, we have a for each loop. But here for each is not a loop actually. It is a method. It is an array method. So we can access this method from array itself. For each is a method. Okay, so there is one common behavior which we have for every method here. Okay, so there is one common behavior. That is every method will take a function as a parameter. Every method will take a function as a parameter. So in the last classes, we have seen how we can pass a function to the other function. How function will receive the function as a parameter, right? So we have seen that one. So callback function. Similarly, every function, every method, whatever we have specified here, we are having one common behavior. That is, every method is accepting a function as a parameter or an argument. We need to pass a function to this method. Similarly, we need to pass one function to this map. Okay, so one function will take as a parameter. That is one common behavior in every method. So first let us start with for each. So how exactly it will work? The first thing, for each. The for each method executes a function once for each array element. Execute a function once for each array element. Execute a function once for each array element. For example, let's say, as I said before, the method for each will take a function as a parameter. And that particular function will be executed for each array element. Let's say array is having 10 elements, and whatever function we are passing as a parameter to this method, that particular function will execute 10 times. Depends on number of values in an array. That's the meaning of this. Execute a function once for each array element. If you have 10 elements, 10 times function will be executed. But that function we need to pass as a parameter to this particular method. Okay, it takes a function as a parameter. Now let us look at the syntax. So if I look at the syntax, and again, the function means this can be a named function, or it can be an anonymous function, or it can be arrow function. Whichever format of function you can pass, all kinds of formats, these methods will be accepted. Okay. Now, so let's see the syntax of the for each. So this is the syntax. So whatever array we created, that we need to specify array dot for each, and this is a function. This is a function. As I said before, we need to pass a function as a parameter, right? So function, or you can specify this is what type of function it is. Can you tell me what is the function of this? By seeing the syntax, you can easily identify this. What type of function it is? It is a named function or anonymous function or arrow function. Only three types of functions we have. Named function, anonymous function. Anonymous function is also called as a nameless function, arrow function. What type of function it is? It is a nameless function, anonymous function. Have you provided any name to this function? Here. No, we just say only function keyword. There is no name. So this is anonymous function. Okay, we can also write arrow function, named function. Later I'll show you multiple examples. Okay, so this is a function we are passing as a parameter. So every function will start with curly brace and ending brace. Okay, so this is a function, right? So inside this function, we need to write a code here. So here we need to write a code. So this is syntax of for each a method, and this will take a function as an argument. Again, if you look at the function, inside again this function will take three arguments. See, for each method will take one function as a parameter. But again, this function is taking how many arguments, how many parameters? Three parameters it accepting. So that we need to understand. What is the current value or element? Index, array. So it will accept three parameters. So what are those three parameters? The first parameter is representing a current element or current value in an array. Let's say an array contains 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are all elements. Okay, so the function will repeat multiple times for every element in array, right? So that element will be taken into this variable. Let's say array contains 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So first round of execution, current value will be 1. Second round of execution, current value become 2. Third round of execution become 3, 4, 5. Depends on the values. Similarly, it is applicable for strings also. If we have a string array, the first element will be stored here. In the second round, second element will be stored here. Third round, third element will be stored here. So the first parameter is representing the current value in an array. And whichever array we are processing, it is representing the current element or current value being processed in the array. That's the first parameter. Index is, we already know, every element is having an index. So whichever value which is taken here, that index will be captured into the variable. Index is another parameter. And this array, the whatever array name is specified, the same name we can specify here. This is the optional parameter. So this we don't need to pass every time. But current value is mandatory. Index is optional. Sometimes if depends on our requirement, we can provide the index or you can eliminate it or we can ignore it. Similarly, depends on the requirement. You can provide array or we can ignore it. So these two parameters are optional. But the first parameter is mandatory, that is representing the current element in an array. Okay, this is a syntax of a for each method, and these are the three parameters accepted in for each method. Okay, so now let us see how we can use it with some examples. Example 1. Listen very carefully. Any questions I'll discuss in the end of the session. Example 1. So let's say I have one requirement like this. So these methods are not mandatory to use in our programming. Okay, so we have a different ways, or even normal using looping statements also we can solve them without using these methods, but we need to understand how exactly they designed. Okay, now let's see the first example. Get the index of all the fruits along with the value. Let's say I have an array which contains a different fruits name. Let fruits colon string array. Okay, I'm taking string array and which contains a different names of the fruits. Now my requirement is I want to print each index of each fruit along with the name of the fruit, index and fruit. For all the names, whatever fruits names are there in this array, for every fruit, I just want to print index along with the value. So how we can achieve this if I don't have this for each? Normally, how we can achieve this? How it is possible? Can we get it? Just I want to print index of every element along with the element. So we can use a normal for loop, right? So we can use classic for loop or for in or for of, any loop we can use. So let me just write a looping statement first and then I will try to use for each. So if you want to use a normal looping statement, how we can write? Let's say console.log of just writing. Okay, I'm just printing fruits along with index using for loop. Okay, so normally if I want to use a for loop, I can just write like this. So I can use I because we need to get index also. Okay, index also we required. So we need to use for I. Okay, that is the syntax we can use. For in, we have two things actually. For in for off. Okay, so for in we have to use, because for off will capture directly the value, but we need index also. So I can write simply let I in fruits. So what is the fruits here? Fruits is a basically an array. Okay, so now from the fruit it will capture the element, not element, index of the first element in the I. In the second round, again take the second index into I. Third round of execution, again take third index into the I. So basically, what is I here? I is representing an index. Okay. Now, if you want to print only indexes, simply what you can do, console.log of I. If I just print only I, it will just print only indexes, right? It will just print only indexes. Now we can just see here 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. So we got all indexes. But along with this index, I want to print the value also. So simply what you can do, comma, what is an array name? Fruits is my array name. Take the name of array and simply pass I like this. So this will print index along with the name of the values. This is how we can achieve this if you want to use simple for loop. Okay. Now, same requirement we will try to achieve using for each method. How exactly for each method will work? We will see that. So example 2. So this is an example for using a looping statement. We have seen how we can achieve this. Same thing we can do using for each method. Okay. Let me write another console.log. So printing fruits along with index using for each method. Okay, now I'll show you same requirement using for each. So what is the syntax of for each loop? As we said here, syntax is array name dot for each. What is an array name here? Foods is my array name. Foods dot for each. Foods dot for each. E is a capital letter. Okay, for each. Now, what are the parameters are required? So 3 parameters it is accepting. Sorry, for each method accepting only one parameter, that is a function actually. Okay, now let me just put here. This is a function. Function and current value in the sense what? An element actually. Every element is called as a current value. So I'm just putting element. Index is common. So array is optional. So I can just remove this array. We don't need this. So the for each method accepting one parameter, that is a function. Again, the function is taking 2 parameters, element of an array and index of every element. And this is a bracket. Now we need to implement this function. So where we need to write the code inside the curly braces only, right? So here I'm writing simple console.log of what we need to print first, index, right? So I'm just printing index directly, comma, index, comma. Also we need element. So that element also I'm just trying to print. Can we print like this? Element and index directly can we print variables? If you want to extract the value from the variables, how we can print? Can we do like this? Which operator we have to use? We need to use backlit operator like this. And we need to keep everything in this backlit, and we need to something use dollar curly brace. Okay, this is how we need to extract the value from the variable. And even this is also we need to do like this, dollar curly brace. Okay, so this is how we need to write. So let me execute and see the output. Yeah, now it is not printing. Why it is not printing? And let us remove this. Syntax is not correct actually. Okay. So what is the syntax? Sorry. I need to use this one. Okay, not single quote. Okay, so now you can see we got a same output, exactly same. Okay, now let us understand how exactly it is executed. So as I said before, whatever function we are passing into this method, will be executed once for each array element. This will be executed once This function will be executed once for each element in an array. Now if I look at this particular function, whatever we have implemented will be executed for each element. Now what is the first element? Apple. So it is taking apple here. Index is 1. Index is what? 0. Now here it is printed 0 and apple. Now next round of execution, it is taking banana. Index is what? 1. So 1 banana. Previously 0 as an index. Now in the third round of execution, it will take element is an orange. Index is 2. So it will print 2 orange. Now next round of execution, it will take element is mango. Index is 4. Now it will print 4 and mango. So how many times this function is repeating? Depends on number of elements. So for 5 elements are there. So this function will be repeated 5 times. Okay. So for each method won't return anything. So whatever the function we are passing inside this for each method will be executed multiple times for multiple elements. So how many elements are there? Those many number of elements, this function will be executed. So this is how we need to use for each method. So you need to remember the syntax and properties. So here we just passed only the current value, which is an element, and index of the element. Only these two parameters we have passed. Third parameter is optional. Even index is also optional for sometimes, but here we want to print the index also along with the element. So that's the reason I'm taking index also. And these are just a variable names. You can use any variable name. Okay. So this is how we can write for each method to achieve the same kind of a requirement. Suppose here I am using some anonymous function. How we can put arrow function? How arrow function? So let me write this by using arrow function. Same thing, just we need to change anonymous function to arrow function. So how we can do this? Let me just copy. So this is by using arrow function. Same thing using arrow function. Okay, so now how we can change the syntax of arrow function? Arrow function will have a keyword like this, arrow function. There is no keyword required, so I can just remove this. And arrow function will take a parameter, element I'm passing parameter, index is also passing parameter. So we need to add arrow, right? So arrow is mandatory. That's it. Simple syntax change. This is an arrow function. Instead of named function or anonymous function, we can also use arrow function like this. Now this will also print the same output. Okay. So ultimately what for each loop will do, the for each loop will repeat this function for each element present in an array. This function for each method will repeat the function for each element inside an array. If array contains 10 times, this function will execute 10 times for each element. For every round of element, it will take a current element and index of that current element. So that's how for each method works. Okay. Now let me tell you another example. So this is an example 1. Let me go for example. So is this clear to everyone? First example, how exactly for each loop is for each method is working. Remember, for each is not a looping statement. It is a method. But whatever function we are writing inside this will repeat multiple times for each element in an array. Okay. So if we want to execute array from second position, then how to write? So here it is not possible. You need to go with the looping statement itself. Okay, you need to go with the looping. By default, it will start from 1 itself because we are not passing values to these parameters. We are not passing values to this parameter. From the fruits array, it will automatically take the elements and indexes from the beginning itself. That's the default behavior of this for each. Okay, and if you want to work with specific values, I want to start from second or third, then better to go with the looping statement. Even not this for loop. You need to go with the classic for loop, where you can specify a value, starting point, condition, incrementation, right? That particular for loop will be suitable in that requirement. So depends on our problem. We need to choose the right approach. Okay. Now let me show you another example for each method. Let's say example 2. So here my requirement is I have all the fruits in my array, right? So I want to print all the names in uppercase characters. I want to print all the fruit name in uppercase characters. So what we need to do for each element, we need to convert into uppercase and then we have to print. And we can easily do it by using for loop, but we will see using for each method, how we can do it by using for each method. So again, take the same kind of a syntax. Listen carefully. So fruits dot for each. And here we just want to convert the element into uppercase character. So do we need index here? We are not going to print any index, right? So only we need element. Once we get an element, we can convert that into uppercase character. So index is not needed here. It is optional. You can remove the index. So for the fruits array, I'm getting the element. Once you get an element, what we need to do? We need to convert that into uppercase and then we have to print. So if I just print only element like this, okay, I'm just printing element like this. It will just print only element, right? So when I print this, you can just look at here. It is printed only elements in the lowercase character. Now I want to convert this into uppercase character. I want to print this element into uppercase character, then I want to print. So then how we can do it? Element dot, we have a string method in TypeScript to uppercase. Okay, this particular method or function will convert this element into uppercase character. Simple. So now how exactly it will work? First, it will take first element, convert uppercase and immediately print this. Second round of execution, take another element, again convert it to uppercase and print this. So how many times this function will repeat depends on the number of elements. Same behavior, it not changed. Same function will repeat multiple times, depends on the number of values in an array. So now when I execute this, you will get all the values in uppercase character. Okay, so this is how we can use for each loop. So when to use this method for each method, whenever you want to execute this function for each element in array, multiple times, each element in for each element in array, then we go for each. Okay, but in the first scenario, we are just trying to print fruit name and index. All fruit names we want to print it. So this function is repeating for all elements. Similarly, here also, we in the second example also, we need to convert the fruit name into uppercase. For every fruit, we want to convert. So this function should be executed for every element in an array. So in that case, we will use for each method. Okay, so remember the definition, that is most important. For each method, execute a function once for each array element. Okay, so here dollar is not necessary because once you converted uppercase, it will print. I think here is also not necessary. Let me print. If I don't use this, just say print only index comma element. Okay, so this will print. Here also it is not necessary. But if you want to put this entire thing as a string format, if you want to print in one single thing, then you can put them in the bracket and use these operators. Okay, otherwise not needed. Okay, so everybody's understood how we can use for each method for arrays concept especially. Right, so now line number 36. Index, but line number 38 index, then element. Okay. Line number 36, we are taking element along with the index because as per our requirement, we want to print element as well as index. Okay. So in this, no. This is order is not important. First, you can print element, later index also, not a problem. Okay. It is just a name. You can also first print element. After that, you can print index, not a problem. Order is not important. Okay, whichever order you want, you can just print them like this. So this time it will just print first element and after that index like this. This is not looks good, right? So that is the reason I'm just printed like this. Okay, so index along with the element. Perfect. Now, so let us move on to the next one called map. Map. Okay, so we need to understand few important things about map. So when to use map and how exactly it will work. So just like a previous for each method, map also will take a function as a parameter. Function as a parameter. So now look at the definition. So map method creates a new array with the result of calling the function on every result of an array, every element of an array. Creates a new array means what? The map will create a new array from the existing array. Whatever operations we do on the existing array, based on the output, the map will create a new array with the result of the calling function on every element of an array. So just like for each method here also, map will take a function as a parameter. Syntax is like this. Just same syntax. Instead of for each, we use map. Function, current value, index, array. Exactly same. So again, the functionality is also almost similar. You can see the same function will repeat multiple times for multiple elements. Let's say array contains 10 times. This function will execute 10 times. If array contains 5 times, this function will execute 5 times. In every round of execution, again, it will take current value, index, and array as a parameter. Again, index and array is also optional here. Okay, but what the difference is what? This map method will create a new array by taking output from every function. Okay, so let me tell you some example. How it will create a new array. How exactly it will map. Okay, so let us say I have some array like this. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, some elements. I have written a function like this. What I'm saying, this function will repeat for every element in array. So this function is applied on this element and some output is generated. So with that output, it will create some number like this. Let's say become 2, for example. Same function is applied on this element. It generated some output and some output here. And again, same function is applied on the third element, it is generated some output. Same function is applied on another element, generated some output like this. And by combining all these outputs, it will generate a new array. This is how map will work. Okay, the function will repeat for every element, same behavior, like how for each method is executed, same behavior. But this function will generate some output. And with that output, for every element, we will get some output. With that output, it will generate a new array. Okay, so this is called map. Now you read the definition. So creates a new array with the result of calling the function on every element of an array. Okay, for each method won't return any data. Okay, for each method won't return anything. We just printing the output like this. But map function is returning some outcome. So we will apply the function on each every element, and whatever outcome we are getting with that outcome or output, we are creating a new array. Okay, so this is how it will work. So it won't disturb existing array. Okay, existing array, original array, it will still maintain. This function is applicable only on the elements. Okay, now read the definition and syntax first. So creates a new array with the result of calling a function. Whenever the function is called, it will generate some output. With that output, it will create a new array, and that is applicable for every element of an array. It takes a function as a parameter, and again returns the same number of elements that we have in original array. So in original array, 5 elements are there, and this function is applied on 5 elements. In 5 elements, 5 outputs will be returned. With those 5 outputs, it will generate a new array. So what does that mean? The map method will return the same number of elements that we have in original array. Same number of elements. It's not same elements. Because after applying the function on the element, the output will be different. It will do some calculation or it will do some processing. So output will be different. But the size is exactly the same. In original array, how many elements are there? In output array also, we will have a same number of elements. Okay. So let me show you some example. Let's say I have one requirement here. Example 1. So by seeing examples, we can understand better. So get square of all the numbers in an array. For example, let's say this is my original array, 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. But in my result, it should be like this. Square, 1 into 1, 1, 2 into 2, 4, 3 into 3, 9. So for each element, I will apply a function, and that result I will store in target array. So this array target array will be written by map. And this is my original array. Okay. Now let us see how we can achieve this using map. So how we can achieve this by using map. So let me create an array. I'm taking a new array here. Let's say numbers, number array. And here I'm storing a few numbers. In the bracket, I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 numbers I'm taking. So now I want to find the square of each number and I want to print those squares in separate array. So this is my original array and I want to find square of each number and store them in a separate array, and that I want to print. Now let us write the syntax. So syntax is exactly same. This is syntax which we are going to use. Okay. So array name, what is an array name here? Numbers. So numbers dot map function. You can write a normal function or you can write a arrow function, whichever you want. So this is number function. What is the current value? Current value is an element. Do we need index here? We don't need index actually, because we automatically will get each and every element and we will multiply with, we will double that number, we'll square that number. So index is not needed. Array is also not needed. Optional parameter. So let me remove that. Now implement this function. So we capture the element. So what we need to calculate here? Square. So how to calculate the square? Element into same element. Element into same element. But we need to return this. We need to return this. So return statement mandatory, like this. Simple. So now what happens? How exactly it will work? First, it will take the first element and return the same element into element. Suppose if first time it take 1 into 1 will be returned. Second 2 it will take 2 into 2 4 will be returned. Next time 3 will be take 3 into 3 9 will be returned. And whatever the values are returning in every iteration or every round will be captured into a new array, right? So that we need to initiate here. Before this map function, we must use a variable, because this map is returning the output in the form of array, right? So we need to create a variable. So I call it as a squared numbers. So we need to hold the output in a variable. Now tell me, what is the type of this variable? What is the type of the squared numbers? It should be number type of an array, right? Because this is returning all the values in the form of array itself. And what that array contains the numbers. Here I have not specified the data type. Why? Because type inference. By default, TypeScript will assign the data type to this variable. So we no need to specify the type for the variables where we want to store the output. But at the time of declaring the variables ourselves, we specify the type. But here it is returning the output dynamically here. So we no need to specify that. Even though if it is specified, there is no problem. Okay. So this is how map function works. So this function, whatever we created, will be executed for each element in an array and return that output. And how many times this function will repeat? Those many number of times the outputs will be returned. By combining all those outputs, it will generate a new array, which is squared numbers. Let us print them now. Console.log of. We just doubled it, right? So squared numbers. I'm just printing them using squared numbers variable. How we can print an array? We can just directly specify that. So we'll impact the original array. Will it impact the original array? Numbers. Let me print here. This is original array. Okay. Let's execute and see. Perfect. Now we can see these are the values. We got it here. And original array still remains the same. So this won't change. Okay. So what map function will do? Map method will do? It will execute this function for each element, capture the output and store into another array. Okay, so this is how we can use map. It takes the function as a parameter, returns the same number of elements which we have in original array. You can see number of elements are same or not? Same. How many elements are there in the previous array? Even updated array also having same number of elements. Okay, now let me show you another example. So this is return is mandatory. Okay, because map method will return an array. That's what I'm taking here. It takes a function as a parameter, creates a new array. Map method is always creates a new array. So to store that array, we need to hold that variable. So it will always return an array. Another example for the same map. Let's say I want to double the each number. We find out the square of each number, right? Now this time I want to double. For example, what? Suppose original array is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now the target array should be what? Double. Double means 1 should become 2, 2 become 4, 3 become 6, 4 become 8, 5 become 10. Okay, now this is my original array. I want to double each number and store into another array like this. This is the output I want. Okay, let's write a for each loop. Here I have written the anonymous function. This time let us try to write a arrow function. Okay, I'm taking numbers dot map. Okay, so arrow function I want to write. Arrow function, do we need any function keyword or name? No, nothing. Just parameter is required. So I'm passing a parameter element. I'm passing. Bracket is required. So inside the bracket, we need to implement. So how we can double this element? Double. Return. Simply say return of element plus element. That's it, right? Element plus element. 1 plus 1, 2 plus 2, 3 plus 3, 4 plus 4, 5 plus 4. That's it. Simply, we are returning it. How we can write this another way? We can multiply by 2 also, right? So instead of plus element, we can simply say multiply by 2. This is also correct. Multiply by 2. Okay. Now you can see that. So map is a method, is taking arrow function, and we are passing only one element. And element only we are specifying. And index and others are optional. Arrow function and implemented this. And is it returning value or not? So we need to hold that in a variable also. So here we need to create a variable. I said doubled values. So it should be again let. This is also an array. Now let us print this console.log of doubled numbers. Right? I'm just printing the values. Perfect. So now execute and see. Yeah, you can see this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So this is the output we are getting. So this is how we can use the map. So here also the same function is executing for each element and output will be stored in another array. Okay, and again, can we just try to reduce this function? And whenever you use arrow function, and how many values you are written inside the function? How many values are returning inside the function? Only one statement, right? If you have only one single statement in arrow function, the curly braces are optional. Okay. If you have only one single statement inside the arrow function, the curly braces are optional. Even return type is also optional. Even this method is function is returning, but have we mentioned any return type here? No, it's optional. So how we can modify the same function? I can also write the same function in single line. I'm writing the entire thing, one single line. So map element, remove this arrow. That's it. Remove this arrow and semicolon. Even return statement is also optional, guys. Okay, return statement is also not needed. If you have a single return statement inside arrow function, curly braces are optional. Return statement is also optional. So here I'm writing the description. Remember, very important. So you can optimize the code or simplify the code. If you have single return statement inside the arrow function. Inside the arrow function. Then curly braces and return statement are optional. It's not mandatory. Curly braces and return statement is optional. Especially it is applicable only arrow functions. Okay, so only arrow function. So map element into 10. So this will also return the same thing. Okay, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 is my output. Understood everyone? So where we want to use string. So map here, this can be anything. So here we are using numbers, strings also we can use. But you need to write a proper calculation or proper operation we need to do. If you are taking string, so what type of operation you want to do on the string? So that you need to first decide. Accordingly, you need to use map. All kinds of data types are accepted. Okay, there is no limitation for data types. Either in all kinds of methods, whatever I have listed here, all 6 methods will take all kinds of data. There is no restriction, but depends on what type of operation you are doing, what type of calculation you are doing. You need to use proper type. Okay, so understood everyone how we can use map. So I have given 2 examples. So how exactly map will work? The function, whatever we have written inside, will be executing for every element in array and return the output and create a new array with that output. If you have 5 items, the target array also having 5 items. Okay, so the function is executing for each element and with that output, it is generating a new array. Okay, this is how map will work. Okay, 2 examples. Now, let's move on to the third one. So almost these 6 methods seems very similar, but there are slight differences are there. So later we will try to compare them also because in interview perspective, these are very important. Next one, filter. Filter. Okay, so how exactly filter? What is a filter will do? Read the definition first. Filter also creates an array just like a map. Filter also creates a new array just like a map with all the elements that pass or satisfy the condition. All the elements that pass or satisfy the function. Creates a new array with all the elements that pass or satisfy the function. This is important. Just like a map, filter also will apply for every element in an array, but depends on the function which we created that should pass or satisfy the function. It takes function as a parameter just like a map, but it returns either same or fewer number of elements compared to the version. This is a major difference. In the map, whatever elements we are passing as an output, we are getting same number of elements, but in filter may or may not. Sometimes you may get same number of elements, sometimes you may not get same number of elements as an output. But how, when we will get, why we won't get the same number of elements? Because whatever function we have written inside this filter method, that function, the elements should satisfy the function. If the function is satisfied, that element will be stored in target array. If the function is not satisfied, that element won't be stored in the target array. Okay, so that is how the filter will work. So let me give you an example how exactly filter works. Let us say, same again, I have an array like this. I have multiple elements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now I am applying filter. So what is my filter condition is? In my filter, this filter method will apply it for every element. So inside the filter, I'll implement a function like this method, every element I want to find even number or not. Only if the element is even, then capture that element and add that into target array. This is my condition actually. In the function, I will write a condition. And this element may satisfy this condition or may not satisfy the condition. Suppose I am taking 1. Will it satisfy the condition? Is it even? No. So this will be skipped. Now it will take another element. Is it satisfying the condition? Yes. So if condition is satisfied, then this element will be added to the target array. Then it will take another element. Is it satisfying the condition? No. It will ignore. Take another element. Again, it is satisfying the condition. So it will store in target array. Now 50 is also not satisfying. This is also ignored. Now if I look at here, target array contains the same number of elements or not? No, there are no same number of elements. How many elements we have? Only 2 number of elements. So that's the definition. It creates a new array with all the elements. All elements mean these are all elements that pass or satisfy the function. Only whichever elements are satisfying the function condition, only those elements will be added to the target array. That's the reason the target array can be the same number of elements sometimes. Suppose if the condition is matching with all the elements, then obviously you will get target array in all elements. For example, I'm putting for one condition. Let's say element is greater than 1, greater than or equal to 1. This is my condition. Now all the elements are satisfying this condition or not? All elements are greater than or equal to 1 or not? Yes. So in that case, the target array contains all the elements, same number of elements. Here 5 elements, target array also contains 5 elements. Suppose if the condition is this, even number. So in that case, in the target array contains only 2 elements. We are filtering the data based on certain condition. Okay, so that is the definition. Creates a new array with all the elements that pass or satisfy the function. Okay, and it is also take function as a parameter. Function as a, just like a map, it is also take function as a parameter. So it returns either same or fewer number of elements compared to the original array. You understood the example? So I'll show example. This is the way we need to understand this first. Okay, so by seeing example, you can understand more. So let us start with first example, how we can work with them. And syntax is exactly the same. There is no change in the syntax. Array name, filter, we will pass function as an argument and we will implement the function here inside the curly braces. Now we'll see the example. Example 1. So as I said before, I'll just try to get the only even numbers from an array. Only even numbers I want to capture from an array. Again, I'm trying to use the same array, whatever we defined here. I don't need to redefine again. Same array, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I want to capture only even numbers from an array. Only even number from an array. So how to write a filter? So numbers is my array name. Numbers is my array name. Dot filter of, you can write anonymous function, named function, arrow function, whichever you want. So I'm just directly writing an arrow function. So in the filter, I'm writing in a function which will take a parameter, element as a parameter or number, whatever. So what I will do with this element, arrow function, right? So arrow function. Now we need to implement this. So what we need to do now? Only we need to capture even numbers. And how we will find this element is even number or not, this even element or number, whatever. I'm just giving some different name for convenience. So how we can find this number is even or not? Divided by 2 should be 0. Divided by should return 0, right? That's my condition. Let me write. So number percentile 2 equal to 0. This is the even number. If it is an even number, then we will return it like this. If it is a 0, then only return it. So return number percentage 0. If this condition is true, number percentile equal to 0, then only it will return that number. And the filter is returning array or not? Yes. Whenever you say return, that should hold in another array. So here I'm creating a variable called even numbers. This is also an array variable, but type is optional. So this is how we need to implement the function, implement the filter. Okay. So can we write this in single statement? One single statement. Instead of writing this entire thing multiple, a single statement, I just want to concise the code. because an arrow function, plus we have only one return statement. If it is an arrow function, curly braces are optional. Remove the curly brace here and here. And even return statement, return keyword is also optional. Remove this return, not needed. So you can put directly here. Single statement, we have done everything. That's it. Right? So this is the advantage of using these methods. So now you can say console.log of. I'm just printing even numbers. Comma, even number. So whichever the numbers are satisfying this particular condition, only those numbers will be added to this target array. That is a major thing we need to understand. Okay, whichever the condition are satisfying, this element is satisfying, only those numbers will be added to this target array. Now execute. See, only we got only 2 and 4 because only 2 numbers are satisfying the condition. Sorry. Basically filtering the data, right? We are filtering the data based on certain condition. So this is an example. Okay. Let me tell you another example for filter. Example 2. So I want to get the numbers from an array, and those numbers should be greater than 3. The numbers should be greater than 3 from the same numbers array. We have 1 to 5 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I want to get only the numbers which are greater than 3. Which are greater than 3. Yeah, now you tell me how we can write this function. Filter. Numbers dot filter of only one element we required. We no need other parameter. Arrow function I'm writing. Element, arrow function, element, or you can say number. Number I'm taking each number. Arrow function. Yeah, what we should return here? What is the condition? Only if the number is greater than 3, it should return. So can we put directly without using curly brace and return statement? Yes. Num greater than 3. That's it. Single function. Now, whatever numbers are greater than 3, only those numbers will be returned into a target array. So that I can put here. I can say filtered numbers. I'm just taking a simple variable. So this is a let. Okay, now I'm trying to print here. Console.log of the numbers greater than 3. Numbers greater than 3, I'm just printing here. Yeah, we got a 4 and 5. Okay, so this is how we can use filter. And what is the difference between map and filter? What are the differences between map and filter? With respect to parameters and syntax, it is exactly the same. But map will apply the function for every element and create a target array with the outputs. It won't filter anything. But in a filter, we will apply the condition. If the element is satisfy the function, then only, or if the element is satisfy the function, then only those values will be added to the target array. But in the map, every element will be added to the array. So in the map, original array, target array having same number of elements. But in filter, sometimes you may have same number of elements, sometimes you may not have, because we are filtering the elements. Okay, perfect. So now let us move on to the next one, reduce. Reduce. So the reduce syntax little bit different. I'll show you what is the reduce. Syntax little bit different compared to others. Reduce method will applies a function. Whatever function we return inside the reduce, you can see the syntax is function same. Previously we have only 3 parameters. Current value is mandatory, index array is optional. But this time we need to specify something called accumulator. accumulator is mandatory here. Along with the current value, accumulator is mandatory. I'll tell you what is an accumulator. And index array is again optional. So this is syntax. Additionally, accumulator is added. And rest of the things are same. Current value same, index is same, arrays are, these are optional. These two are optional. Okay, now let us see the definition. Reduce applies a function. Whatever function we return, this function will apply on every element. Just like other methods, this function will apply on every element of an array and returns a single value. This is important. Returns a single value. Means what? This function is applied on every element on array. It will perform certain operation on those elements and finally it returns single value. Finally, it returns a single value. Okay. With that example, we will try to understand how it will return a single value at a time. So let us understand with an example. It won't return an array. Reduce method won't return an array. Map and filter will return an array, but reduce won't return an array. It will return single value at a time. Okay, let me show you. So let's say this is my array again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So multiple elements are there. Now I'm applying the reduce method. So what this reduce method will do is, let us say my requirement is, I want to add all the numbers like 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. And finally, I want to get some output. I want to add all the numbers. I want to get some output here. Okay. Now, so how we will write this? Suppose how we can do this? Suppose if I'm not using reduce method, how we can do this? First, we will take a variable called total. I'll make it as a 0 first. Okay. Now, first I will capture the first element and I will add this first element to total. Now, what is the value of the total? 1. Then I'll take another element 2 and that value I will add it to the existing value. Now, already 1 is there in the total. So 2 plus 1 become 3. Okay. Now, total value become 3. After that, again, I will take another number 3. I will add this 3 to existing 3. What's the current value of total? 3. Now I will add this 3 to 3. Now we will get a 4. 3 to 3. 3 plus 3, how much? 6 you will get. So first 1. Okay. 1 plus 2, 3. 3 plus 3, 6. 6 plus 4, 10. 10 plus 5, 15. So like this. Okay. So every time I'm capturing the element, I'm adding to the existing value. So if I look at this, finally, what is an output here? We will get 15 will be returned here. That's a single output return. So if I look at this, these are the elements. These are the elements. This total is called as a accumulator. This is accumulator actually, because every time we are adding two numbers and storing into the existing variable. And next time taking another value, adding to the existing variable. So what exactly this total is doing, it is accumulating the result in every iteration. Or in every round of execution, the total will be accumulating the result, having the result or storing the result into it. And finally, the result will be there in the accumulator. Okay. So this is how the reduce will work. So what reduce method will do? The reduce method apply this function in every element, finally return a single value. Okay. Now let us see the example. And in the syntax wise, reduce function, accumulator, current value, index, and array. And rest of the 3 parameters are again same. I'm not specifying them. Only accumulator is got added. Yes, this will add all the values and return a single value. Okay, so accumulator is additionally added. Current value we already know. The current value means it is representing the element, and index we already know, array. These two are optional, but first two are the mandatory parameter. Okay, now let's see the example for this. So my example, as I said, same thing. Get the total sum of all elements in array. Okay, so how we can achieve this using normal for loop? A traditional for loop. Find the total of all the elements in array. I'm not using reduce. First, let us see with the normal for loop. I will take initial variable, let to total equal to 0. Initial variable 0. Now I'm writing a looping statement here. Or we can write a looping statement. Let index start from 0. I less than how many numbers are there? Those many number of times we need to repeat. So numbers dot length and then I plus plus. So here we need to add the numbers. So total equal to total plus. How to capture the number by using index? Numbers of I. This is a calculation. So once this loop is completed, finally what this total contains? Total contains the sum of all the numbers. So simply you can write logic like this using normal for loop. I'm showing first. Console.log, I can say sum of all the numbers. Here I can simply print total. So this is a traditional way we can write using normal for loop. So when I print this, you will get 15. Perfectly fine. So now the same thing we will try to achieve with the reduce method. So what is an accumulator here? The total is an accumulator. So in every iteration, the total contains some value. Now tell me what is the first value of the total? First iteration, total. So total is 0 and the number of I means I'm adding 1. So 1 plus 4, first iteration 1. Second iteration, it becomes 2. Next iteration, 2 plus 1, 3. Next iteration, 3 plus, what is the next iteration? 1, 2, 3, then 6, then 10. Right? So this is how we need to. So all these values, where exactly we are holding it? In the total. So this is basically accumulating the output in every iteration. That's called accumulator here. Accumulator. Okay. Now let us implement the same thing using reduce method. Using reduce method. Here I'm again writing reduce method. So what is the syntax? Array name is what? Numbers. Numbers dot reduce. Okay, so we can pass any type of function. I'm directly using arrow function. So here accumulator, I'm giving some name to this total, which is an accumulator. And the second parameter is what? Element. There's a current value element. Index array is optional, so I'm not using them. Arrow, then implement this. So how to implement this? So we need to find the total, right? So total plus element. Total plus element. Every iteration, whatever the element we are capturing here, that will be added to the total. So total, initially total value by 0 it will take. By default 0 it will take. Total value 0 it will be taken. So total plus element. And also we need to return this. I can say return total plus element. And do we need a variable here? Yes. So I can say reduce result or total, anything. I'm just providing it. And here I'm printing console.log reduce result. Okay, now you tell me something. Where exactly we are specifying the initial value? Initial value of total. Are you specifying any initial value of the total? So here we have taken total equal to 0. So every time we are adding these numbers to the total. But in this particular situation, in this particular syntax, are you specifying any default value of the total? We are not specifying any default value. Okay. So if I don't specify any default value, it will be assigned to the 0 itself. By default, it is assigned to the 0. Okay, let me execute this. So we got a 15 as an output. So we need to understand something here. If you are not specifying the default value of the accumulator, the default value is a 0. Suppose if we want to specify some other number as a default value, let's say I'm doing some other type of operation where I don't want to have a default value 0. I want to make the default value is equal to 1, for example. Then how we can specify, where we can specify that. So in the same syntax, after completion of this function, here the curly braces starting point, ending point, right? After completion of the function, by using comma, here you can specify the default value of accumulator. This is additional syntax. So now as soon as 0 is optional, if it is a 0, you don't need to specify. But if you want to specify any other value as a accumulator default value, then you can put here. Okay, so here 0 is default value of accumulator. Okay, default value. This is optional. If it is 0, it's an optional. Even if you don't specify, no problem. Even if you specify, you won't see the difference in output. Exactly 15 you will get. But in case if you're trying to solve any other problems, if you want to start accumulator value, if you want to give accumulator default values 1 or 2, then you need to give like this. Okay. So the reduce method will take how many parameters? Accumulator, element, index, array. Index array is optional, but accumulator element is mandatory. These two are mandatory. And it will also return a single value at a time. It cannot return array. It is returning single value. So we are storing into a variable that we are able to print here. Okay, can we try to reduce this form method in single statement? Single statement. Can we write this in the single statement? Simplify this method because we have only one return statement, right? So arrow function, curly braces are optional. So here and here I'm remove the curly brace, starting curly brace, ending curly brace. Even return statement also I'm just removing total plus element. That's it. Now I can put in single statement like this. Okay, so here. So total plus element we are returning. So are we missing something? Yes, that's it. So this is the function. We'll return the value and the default value of the total accumulator is 0. So this is how we need to write a function. Reduce method. So we'll get a 15. So we can simplify the code like this using reduce. So for how many methods we covered? First one, each, for each, map, filter, and then reduce. Now sum array, sum every. So very simple method. So how we know after comma putting 0 is a default value. So that's the syntax. That is also part of the syntax actually. So if you want to put the default value of the accumulator, you can simply say by comma. After finishing the body, simply say comma 0. Even if you remove this, not a problem. Because we are additionally added accumulator here, right? Accumulator means it should have some default value. And default value is 0. If you want to put any other value, you can put 1, 2, whatever you want. If it is a 0 default value, you no need to write this also. Comma 0 is optional. Okay. So now we'll see another method called sum every. So how we can use sum? Again, same syntax, but a slight difference. What is method sum will do? Sum checks if any element satisfy the condition. Sum checks if any element satisfy the condition. Have you seen this similar type of method earlier? We have seen this in filter. Filter, it seems very similar, right? What filter will do? You need to remember now. So what filter will do? Filter function applies on every element, and whichever the element is satisfied the function, only those elements will be added to the target array. So whichever the elements are satisfying the function, only those elements are added to the target array. Suppose if 5 elements are satisfied, all 5 elements are added to the array. If 10 elements are satisfied the function, all 10 elements will be added to the target array. But here, it will also do the same thing, but it will check at least one element is satisfied or not. It will check only one element is satisfied or not. So the sum or any, these methods will return a Boolean value, true or false. Some method will return true or false. So if let's say 5 values are there and 5 values, one value or one element is satisfying the function, then some method will return true. If all 5 elements are not satisfied the condition of the function. Even one element is not satisfied of the function, then return false. Okay. So that's how the sum method will work. Again, example. I have multiple elements. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the elements. Now, let's say my condition is what? The number should be 5. This is my condition. So this is my condition I put in my function. Now, how many elements are satisfying this condition? So first it will check, not satisfied, not satisfied, not satisfied, not satisfied. Here it is satisfied. Even one element is satisfied this condition, the sum method will return true. Even all elements are not satisfied this condition, then return false. That is called sum. Okay, checks if any element satisfies the condition. Any element means at least one element. At least one element. Every is another method which is exactly opposite of this. If I use sum method, at least one element should satisfy the condition. So then returns true or else return false. But how exactly the any will work? Any, not any, every. Every is another method. All elements should satisfy the condition. Then only it returns true. Even one element is not satisfied, return false. These two are exactly opposite. So sum method will check this condition is satisfied at least one element or not. At least one element. If it is satisfying one element at least, it will return true. If no element is satisfying the condition, then return false. That is a behavior of sum. Every is another method. So this is exactly opposite of this. Every means what? All elements should satisfy the condition. Then only return true. Even one element is not satisfy the condition, return false. Okay. So condition is mandatory. Based on the condition, it will verify. And what is the return type of this method? Boolean value, either true or false. True or false. Okay. We'll see some examples. So what is the syntax? Array, name, sum, function, current value, index, array. Same. Current value means element, index is index of element, array is an optional. So let's see the example one. So I want to check that array contains a negative numbers or not. I want to check the array contains a negative or not. Check array contains a negative numbers or not. Sorry. Check array contains negative values. Okay, so now let's see how to implement this sum. How we can implement the sum method. I'm taking array numbers, same array, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers are there in there. Numbers dot sum. And here I'm writing the function, arrow function, you can directly write. So inside this, I'm taking an element. This is a current value and arrow. Okay, now how we can check the number is negative or not? I want to verify every number is negative or not. How we can check? Negative or not? When the number will be negative, if the number is less than 0, that is a negative. The number is less than 0, then that is a negative. So then what is the condition here? The element should be less than 0. That's it. One single statement. So now it will verify every element is less than 0 or not. Okay. So then if any element is less than 0, it will return true because I'm using sum. At least one element should be negative. Check array contains negative values or not. At least one negative is there or not. True, right? So here we need to store that result in a variable. So I'm creating one variable called has negative. So what is the type of this variable? It should be a Boolean type actually. So that you can specify this explicitly or this is an optional. So you can simply say, you can put the cursor on the sum, it will show you. Boolean is a return type. Now I can say console.log off. I can just print something. So does array contains negatives? I'm just printing the has negative number. True or false will be printed. Now I can simply print this. So finally, it will return Boolean value, either true or false. Now it is returning false. Why? Because we don't have any negatives there. We don't have any negative values in here, so it return false. Now, same thing, how we can do this for positive values. Positive. We want to check positives are there. Check array contains a positives or not. Positive values, at least one positive value we have, that is enough. So how we can modify this? How has positive numbers dot some element greater than 0. Greater than 0 means all are positive. So if element is satisfying this condition, if at least one element is satisfying the condition, return true or else false. So does array contains positives? Yes or no, it will print. So what is an outcome of this? Obviously, it should be true. Okay, so true is got returned. Sum is nothing but at least one. Okay, remember that point. Okay, so returns true if at least one element passes the condition. At least one element. But each method, every element should pass the condition. That is exactly opposite of this. Now we'll look at the every method. Every. Check if all elements satisfy the condition. Here, checks if any element is satisfy the condition. At least one element should satisfy the condition or not, we are verifying. But here we need to check all elements are satisfy the condition. If all elements are satisfied condition, then return true or else return false. Syntax is exactly same. Now example. Okay, so now what I'll do is I want to find that array contains the even numbers or not. All numbers are even or not, I want to check. I have 1 to 5 numbers. I want to check all 1 to 5 numbers are even or not. Okay, so now tell me how to write the function. So method numbers dot every will take element as a parameter, element arrow function. Now you tell me the expression how we can write. All elements should be even. Okay, so I want to verify all numbers should be even. How we can put the condition? Element, whatever element we are capturing, that element should divided by 2 should return 0. 0. That's it. Single statement. Because I'm writing arrow function becomes very easy for us. So all elements 0 is written, all elements divided by 2 0. Then only this every method will return true or else return false. So I can say I'm creating variable called all even. And let's say let keyword. Okay, now just print this console.log. Okay, now let's see. Are all numbers are even? And what's an output of this? True or false? Obviously, it should return false because we have also odd numbers in the array. So returning false. Okay, so every means every element should satisfy the function. Some means at least one element should satisfy the condition. So that is the difference between some, every. Okay, so I'll show you another example. This is first example, second. So I want to check all the numbers should be greater than 1. All the numbers should greater than 1. How we can check? How we can write the function? All numbers should be greater than 1. Numbers dot every I'm taking element as a parameter, arrow function. Yeah, now tell me statement. All numbers should be greater than 1 or not. So element greater than 1, single condition. That's it. So we need to store a return value in a variable. So I'm creating a variable all greater than 1. A simple variable I'm creating as a letter. Now print this console.log of all greater than 1 or not. Or all the numbers greater than 1. Okay. Now, if the all elements are satisfied the condition, then only returns true or else return false. What is the returning false? All elements are greater than 1 or not. What is the returning? Return type. Sorry. So what is my 1 to 5? We have numbers 1 to 5, but 1 greater than 1 is not true, right? So that's the reason returning false. Suppose when I say element greater than 1, here I'm using every element, not one single element. Every element should greater than 1. But if I take 1, 1 is greater than 1, true or false? False, right? So that's the reason condition not matches. So let's say equal to also added. And then returns true here. So all elements, check all elements are greater than or equal to 1 or not. So that how we can check. So this returns true. Okay. And same thing. Suppose I want to verify all numbers are positive or not. All numbers are positive or not. So how we can modify this? All numbers should be positive. All should be positive. So numbers dot every element. So the element should be greater than 0. Then only it is a positive. So now what is an output of this? Are all the numbers positive? All numbers are positive or not? Yes. So obviously it should return true. Yes. Okay. So this is how we can use every. So you understand the difference between some and every? So during interview, they will ask the difference between the similar type of methods. So it seems very similar, but slight difference. Some is nothing but at least one element should match the condition. Every means every element should match the condition. Then only it returns true. Okay. So these are some advanced methods which are supporting arrays concept. There are so many other functions, other methods, which are not that much important. Just practice these methods at least. But interview point of view, these are very important. Even though we are not using our automation, but still entry point of view, these are very, very important. For each, map, filter, reduce, sum, and every. So mostly they will ask, what is the difference between map and filter? And what's the difference between filter and reduce? What is the difference between sum and every? So you need to understand, slight differences are there. Now you tell me in these methods, what are the methods will return an array? What are the methods will return an array? Return an array. Tell me. For each loop, what this will return? Array. Map, what this will return? For each loop won't return anything, sorry. For each loop won't return anything, okay? Nothing, void. Map will return an array. Filter also will return an array. Reduce will return single value. Reduce will return single value because we have an accumulator there. Sum will return true or false. Even every will return true or false. Okay, so I will give the complete notes. I'll upload today. Yesterday I have uploaded all the functions and everything. So today I will add some quiz. Probably we have a string also. String also having different methods. In the next class, I will discuss about the string methods. And once the string methods are also completed, then I will give some assignments and then we'll give some quizzes and you can work on weekend. Okay. So we'll stop here for today's session. We will continue in tomorrow's session.